Okay, remember that they're changing my voice? The person who commented is a great example of someone who, in this case, the provocation was ever so slight, but it was there, right? In terms of, the other provocations that I get are far more intense. This one, the guy kind of was trying not to be too offensive, but the fact that he accused me of lying is very offensive. And his argument was obviously like no offense to anybody, like a troll argument, right? Where he doubts the irrefutable truth that I obviously am Christ. And he says that your organs are the same as everyone else. Okay, now, if you look at Christ as a character in the story, if you take it literally, when he was crucified, his flesh died, right? And he had 2 eyes, 2 feet, 2 hands, what have you. Okay, he had a heart, okay, liver, kidney. So his argument doesn't make sense. And there you have the skull that's associated with the occult. Whether or not he's an occultist, mind you, again, this video is not to offend, but to teach. The skull at the end of his message. So you notice in the Proverbs 34, it says, the phrase, surely you know. If there's somebody on the planet who's meant to be the king, right? Proverbs 16:12, the throne is established in righteousness, New Living Translation, justice. Who would it be? It's obviously not going to be the Pope, right? It's obviously not going to be any preacher you've ever heard of, your teachers, your parents, or what have you. It's obviously going to be me, the top martial artist, right? The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter to the full light of day. All who wish to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. And it says right there in Psalm 19 that the champion is compared to the sun. So who has that intense warrior spirit as the root and offspring of David and the bright morning star? So obviously, I am the idea that Christ is superimposed on. I'm the most righteous person that ever lived. And you have to consider sabotage and the government's attempts to try to misrepresent, the truthful character that I obviously am in reality. Not a character in a story, but someone with character in reality. So people come at me with their kind of white supremacists, Jewish supremacists, LGBT supremacists, fairy interpretation of the Bible. We'll say not necessarily this person, because they have a tendency to kind of take off my video responses, even though they're always more than fair. Okay, he says the flesh means nothing, right? Why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? Why don't you know that the most righteous person that ever lived and ever will live, which is me, is the idea that is superimposed on? Communism and the Bible, which has monarchies, right? King Saul, King Hezekiah, King Asa, King Jehoshaphat, King David, and so on and so forth. These are monarchies. Okay, when Israel split into 2, right? The nation of Israel and the nation of Judah, right? The kingdom of Judah. Okay, the kingdom of Israel, kingdom of Judah. You still had kings in both sections. It is such an anti-communist monarchy that when it split in 2, it had kings in both sections. Queens, royalty, what have you. So when you try to argue, say you're all equal, you're putting politics in the place of biblical truths. Now keep in mind, I don't see the Bible as the authority on anything. It is a book that's made confusing to lead people astray. I'm 100% convinced that that's the case. But the ideas that it's talking about, which predate the Bible, right? The beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, okay, are correct. The idea of giving the righteous man his rightful place is correct. Why would you steal from me by pretending that we're equal? That's cheating me out of my you pay the worker his wages, right? My labor. That's cheating me out of my generational inheritance. I come from a long line of people who scrambled harder than everyone else to cultivate righteousness in martial arts, which is the most demanding exercise. And my father, who, is a brain surgeon, works 16 hours a day at times, plus. But you seek to pretend that we're all equal so a bunch of rich people can use their money, which is the root of all evil. Look up the parable of the rich fool. to get attractive women and leave me in the middle of nowhere, shunned and single at the age of 42. That is very, very unfortunate. I have a lot of harsh words I want to say, but I don't want to break the rules. But let's face it, if you were honest about this situation, you would know that not only am I Christ, but it should be against the law to say that I'm not. It should be considered a hate crime because of the cultural appropriation of the West and their drastic and racist attempts to confuse this with their over 380,000 churches and over 20,000 denominations in America alone. Imagine if somebody did that to you and then told attractive women to shun you unless you were their modern day slave. What is more racist than that? What is more sickening than that? Thank you.